Millionaire's 6-year-old daughter never walked until the new nanny noticed something strange, then said a few words that made her call 911 in tears. Before anything else, if you're watching from a place of struggle, know that you're not alone. Leave a comment if you'd like to share. If you find value in this video, please like it and subscribe to our channel for more supportive content. Mr. Harrison, she hasn't moved from that spot all day. Emma Walker stood in the doorway of the expansive home office, her hands nervously twisting the edge of her cardigan. At 28, she was younger than the previous nannies Robert Harrison had hired for his daughter, but her resume was impeccable, a degree in child development with a minor in physical therapy. Robert barely looked up from his computer screen. The stock market was in freefall, and millions were at stake. "Olivia likes to read by the window, Miss Walker. That's perfectly normal." "Sir, I don't think you understand." Emma took a step forward, her voice firmer now. "She hasn't moved. Not to use the bathroom, not to get a drink, nothing. For 8 hours. That got his attention. Robert Harrison's piercing blue eyes finally met hers. At 42, the tech mogul still maintained his athletic build, though new streaks of silver had appeared at his temples since his wife's death 4 years ago. "Olivia has mobility issues. Her doctors are aware." Emma shook her head. "This isn't about mobility. I've worked with children who have physical limitations. This is different." She hesitated before adding, "When I tried to help her move, she whispered that Rebecca says no walking." The color drained from Robert's face. "Rebecca said what?" "Sir, your daughter told me that Rebecca says walking makes Daddy sad." Robert was on his feet instantly, his voice shaking. "Call 911, now!" The next hour passed in a blur. Paramedics arrived, examining the frightened 6-year-old who clung to Emma with surprising strength. Robert paced the marble foyer, making urgent phone calls while keeping his distance from his fiancée, Rebecca Sinclair, who had arrived home midway through the commotion. "This is ridiculous," Rebecca hissed, her perfect makeup failing to hide her fury. "I'm calling our private physician." At 34, the former model had been engaged to Robert for nearly 2 years, stepping into the role of Olivia's mother figure after Claire Harrison's tragic accident. Emma watched as Rebecca's manicured hand gripped her phone tightly, noting how Olivia trembled whenever Rebecca looked her way. "She's physically capable of walking," the paramedic told Robert quietly, "but we're seeing signs of psychological trauma. She needs to see a specialist immediately." Later that evening, after Olivia had finally fallen asleep and Rebecca had stormed out, Robert found Emma in the kitchen. "You've been here 3 days, he said, pouring himself a drink with shaking hands. 3 days, and you saw what a dozen specialists missed over 3 years. Emma looked down at her tea. "Sometimes it takes fresh eyes, Mr. Harrison. Why did you come to work for us?" The question caught her off guard. "Your agency called with the position." "No," Robert said, his voice low. "The truth. You had offers from prestigious schools. Why choose to be a nanny for a difficult child?" Emma met his gaze. "Because I read about your daughter. A child who stopped walking shortly after her mother died. The medical community called it conversion disorder, but She hesitated. "You what?" "I thought there might be more to the story." Robert stared at her for a long moment. "Tomorrow morning, Rebecca leaves for a spa weekend. We have 3 days. 3 days to figure out what's been happening to my daughter." Emma nodded, feeling the weight of a little girl's future on her shoulders. "Help her walk again," Robert whispered, his voice breaking. "Please." The Harrison estate sprawled across 5 acres of prime Connecticut real estate, a monument to Robert's success in the tech industry. But to Emma, the 20-room mansion felt more like a beautiful prison as she watched Olivia sitting motionless in her favorite window seat the next morning. "Your dad says we can have pancakes for breakfast," Emma said cheerfully, kneeling beside the child. Olivia's golden curls, so like her late mother's, framed a face too solemn for a 6-year-old. "Can we eat them here?" she asked softly. "We could," Emma replied, careful to keep her tone light. "Or we could have a picnic in the garden. It's a beautiful day." Panic flashed across Olivia's face. "I can't go to the garden." "Why not, sweetheart?" Olivia looked around nervously before whispering, "Rebecca says my legs are too weak for stairs." Emma fought to keep her expression neutral. "What if I carried you?" The child's eyes widened. "You'd get in trouble. Rebecca says no one should carry me except her or Daddy, because I'm too heavy, and it makes Daddy sad to see me being carried." Each word felt like a knife to Emma's heart. She'd worked with abused children before, but the calculated psychological manipulation was unlike anything she'd encountered. "Olivia," she said gently, "do your legs hurt when you try to stand?" The little girl shook her head. "Have they ever hurt?" "No," Olivia whispered. "But Rebecca says they're broken inside where no one can see." Emma took a deep breath. "Would you let me check? I used to help children with special legs." After a moment's hesitation, Olivia nodded. Emma gently examined the child's legs, noting some muscle atrophy from 3 years of disuse, but nothing that would prevent walking with proper rehabilitation. "Your legs look perfectly capable to me," Emma said with a smile. "I think they just need practice remembering how to work." Olivia's eyes darted to the doorway. "Rebecca will be mad." "Rebecca isn't here today. It's just you, me, and your dad." As if on cue, Robert appeared with a tray of pancakes, his expression hopeful. "Daddy," Olivia asked timidly, "is it true Rebecca is gone today?" Robert nodded, setting down the tray. "She's at the spa until Monday." Emma saw her opportunity. "Olivia, did you know your dad makes the best pancakes in Connecticut? He was just telling me how you two used to have pancake races in the kitchen." Robert looked momentarily confused. Then understanding dawned in his eyes. "That's right, Livy Bear. You used to run around the island with a pancake on a spatula." "I did." Olivia's voice was tinged with wonder. "You were just 3, Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "You were so fast your mum could barely keep up." "Before my legs got broken inside," Robert paled. "Your legs aren't broken, Olivia, they never were." But Rebecca said—" "Rebecca was wrong," Robert stated firmly, though Emma noted how his hands trembled. Olivia's eyes filled with tears. "But she said if I tried to walk, you'd be sad because it would remind you of Mommy." Robert knelt beside his daughter, taking her small hands in his. "Nothing would make me happier than to see you walk again, Livy Bear. Nothing in the world." The little girl looked from her father to Emma, confusion and hope battling across her face. "Really? Really?" they answered in unison. Later, as Olivia napped, exhausted from the emotional morning, Robert led Emma to his study. 3 years, he said, collapsing into his chair. "For 3 years, Rebecca told my daughter that walking would make me sad." His voice broke. "And I never knew." "Psychological abuse is often invisible," Emma said gently, "especially when the abuser is charming and persuasive." Robert looked up sharply. "How did you know to check for this?" Emma hesitated. The timing seemed suspicious. Olivia was walking normally until age 3, then suddenly stopped. That coincided with Rebecca moving in, Robert finished, his face ashen. But why? What could she possibly gain? Dawn broke over the Harrison estate, painting the sky in watercolor hues of pink and gold. Emma had barely slept, spending most of the night researching rapid intervention techniques for children with psychologically induced mobility issues. By 6 a.m., she'd drafted a 3-day plan and was reviewing it in the kitchen when Robert appeared, looking equally exhausted. "Coffee?" he offered, already pouring her a cup. "Please." Emma accepted it gratefully. "I've been thinking about how to approach this with Olivia." Robert nodded, leaning against the counter. "I spent half the night going through security footage." You have cameras inside the house. Not everywhere, just common areas for security. He looked down at his coffee. I found dozens of instances over the past 3 years. Rebecca telling Olivia that walking would break her father's heart, that her legs were defective, that she was protecting Olivia by keeping her still. Emma felt sick, all while presenting herself as the devoted caregiver to the outside world. The perfect stepmother-to-be, Robert said bitterly. The media ate it up. Beautiful model gives up her career to care for motherless child. What will you do about Rebecca? Robert's jaw tightened. End it, obviously, but I need proof that will stand up legally before she returns. She's signed as beneficiary on several accounts. Emma's eyebrows rose. You think this is about money? With Rebecca, it's always about money. Her modeling career was fading, her debts mounting. He sighed heavily. I was vulnerable after Claire died. Rebecca seemed like a miracle, beautiful, charming, and Olivia seemed to like her at first. A small voice came from the doorway. Miss Emma? Are you and Daddy fighting? They turned to see Olivia in her wheelchair, which Rebecca had insisted she needed, despite doctors finding no physical reason for her inability to walk. Not at all, sweetheart, Emma smiled. We're planning a special day. Robert knelt beside his daughter. How would you feel about trying something new today, Livy Bear? Olivia looked uncertain. Like what? Like seeing if those legs of yours remember how to stand up, Emma suggested gently. Fear flashed across the child's face. But Rebecca says... Rebecca isn't a doctor, Robert interrupted firmly, and she isn't your mother. She was wrong about your legs, Olivia, very wrong. Tears welled in Olivia's eyes. But what if I fall? Then we'll help you back up, Emma assured her. That's what people do when they care about each other. After breakfast, they moved to the mansion's indoor pool area. Emma had researched hydrotherapy as a gentle introduction to movement, knowing the water would support Olivia's weight and reduce her fear of falling. Water is magic, Emma explained, as Robert helped lower his daughter into the shallow end, where Emma was already waiting. It helps our bodies remember how to move. I can't swim, Olivia protested, clinging to her father's neck. You don't have to swim, Emma reassured her. Just feel the water. Gradually, Olivia relaxed as Emma guided her through gentle movements. Her legs, though weakened from 3 years of disuse, responded naturally to the water's buoyancy. Look, Daddy, Olivia exclaimed after an hour, floating with minimal support. I'm flying! Robert watched from the pool's edge, eyes glistening. You sure are, Princess. By lunchtime, Olivia had progressed to standing in waist-deep water, holding Emma's hands, but supporting her own weight. The joy on her face was transformative. My legs aren't broken inside, she announced over sandwiches. They never were, Robert affirmed. Then why did Rebecca lie? The simple question hung in the air. Emma and Robert exchanged glances. Sometimes, Emma began carefully, adults do wrong things because they're afraid. What was Rebecca afraid of? Olivia asked. Robert set down his sandwich. She was afraid of not being important enough. She thought if you needed lots of help, she would always have a special job in our family. Olivia considered this. But that's silly. Family is family, even when nobody needs help. Morning light streamed through the conservatory windows as Emma guided Olivia through another series of gentle exercises. Day 2 of their 3-day window without Rebecca had begun with renewed determination. Remember how we practiced in the pool yesterday? Emma encouraged, supporting Olivia as the child attempted to stand beside a sturdy chair. Same idea, but this time the air is our water. Olivia's legs trembled with the effort, muscles awakening after 3 years of disuse. It's harder without the water, she observed, brow furrowed in concentration. That's true, Emma agreed. After not using your muscles for 3 years, they've gotten weaker, but you're making wonderful progress. From the doorway, Robert watched the session, his phone recording every moment, evidence of his daughter's true capabilities, proof of the lie he'd been living. "Daddy, look!" Olivia called out, standing unassisted for a wobbly 3 seconds before grabbing Emma's hand again. "I did it! That's my girl!" Robert's voice cracked with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Livy Bear!" As the morning progressed, Olivia's confidence grew. By lunchtime, she could stand alone for nearly 30 seconds and had taken 2 tentative steps with Emma's support. Over sandwiches in the garden, Olivia's first outdoor meal in years, Robert received a troubling call. "Rebecca's coming home early," he announced after hanging up, his expression dark. "Her spa weekend was unsatisfactory. She'll be here tomorrow morning." Emma felt Olivia stiffen beside her. "That's okay," she said calmly, though her heart raced. "We've already made incredible progress." "But I'm not really walking yet," Olivia whispered, fear creeping back into her voice. Robert knelt beside his daughter's chair. "Olivia, I need you to be brave. When Rebecca comes home, things might get confusing. Is she going to be mad at me?" "If she is, that's not your fault," Robert said firmly, "and I won't let her hurt you ever again." Emma met Robert's eyes over Olivia's head, understanding the unspoken message. Their timeline had just been cut in half. That afternoon, they intensified Olivia's therapy. Emma brought in a pediatric walker she'd borrowed from a former colleague, giving Olivia more independence. "This is just temporary," Emma explained, "like training wheels on a bike." Olivia took to it immediately, delighting in her newfound mobility as she navigated from the living room to the kitchen, her father recording every step. "I'm walking, Daddy. I'm really walking." "You certainly are," Robert beamed, though Emma noticed he kept checking his watch. After Olivia went to bed, exhausted from her most active day in years, Robert invited Emma to his study. "My lawyer is coming tonight," he explained, pouring them both a drink. "I need to show him the evidence before Rebecca returns." "What exactly are you planning?" Emma asked carefully, maintaining professional distance despite the growing warmth between them. Robert's expression was grim. "Full custody protection, restraining order, and annulment of our engagement, plus criminal charges if possible." "Will that be enough?" "Rebecca seems determined." "You mean dangerous," Robert corrected. "And yes, I'm beginning to realize just how dangerous." He slid a folder across the desk. "My security team found these today." Emma opened it to find printouts of emails between Rebecca and someone named Marcus. The exchanges detailed Rebecca's plan to secure her position through Olivia's continued condition and eventually gain control of Robert's finances through marriage. "She never loved me," Robert said flatly. "It was always about the money." "And Olivia was just collateral damage," Emma added softly, feeling sick. "The perfect leverage. A permanently disabled child, a guilty father." He trailed off, shaking his head. "I was such a fool." "You were grieving," Emma reminded him gently. "Rebecca saw your vulnerability after losing Claire and exploited that." Robert's eyes dimmed with pain. Claire would never have been fooled by Rebecca. She was always the one who could read people instantly. The grandfather clock in the foyer struck 9 as Emma helped Olivia with her morning exercises. The little girl had slept fitfully, plagued by nightmares about Rebecca's return. "What if she makes Daddy send you away?" Olivia whispered, clutching Emma's hand as they practiced standing. "Your dad won't let that happen," Emma assured her, though uncertainty gnawed at her stomach. Rebecca Sinclair had manipulated this family for 3 years. Who knew what tactics she might employ when cornered? Robert entered, his face drawn from a sleepless night. Harold called. "The emergency orders are being processed, but the judge wants to see evidence of Olivia's current abilities." "Like a video?" Emma asked. "In person. He's sending a court-appointed physician this afternoon." Robert knelt beside his daughter. How would you feel about showing a doctor how well you can stand now, Livy Bear? Olivia bit her lip. Will you and Miss Emma be there too? Every second, he promised. A commotion at the front door made them all freeze. Rebecca's voice, shrill with indignation, echoed through the foyer as she argued with the security guard. She's early, Robert muttered, pulling out his phone to alert his lawyer. Emma, take Olivia to the safe room. The what? Panic room, off the master suite. Security will show you. He squeezed his daughter's shoulder. Go with Miss Emma, sweetheart. I need to talk to Rebecca alone. Fear flashed across Olivia's face. Daddy, no, she'll be mad. I'll be fine, Robert assured her, though his tight expression told Emma otherwise. This is grown-up business. The head of security appeared, ushering Emma and Olivia toward the mansion's east wing. As they hurried away, Emma heard Rebecca's voice rising hysterically. You changed the security codes? How dare you lock me out of my own home? Bull. The panic room was actually a comfortable suite, with monitors showing various parts of the house. The security chief activated a screen displaying the foyer, where Robert stood facing a furious Rebecca. Should we be watching this? Emma asked, concerned about Olivia witnessing the confrontation. Mr. Harrison's orders, the guard replied. He wants evidence of her behavior. The system is recording. On screen, Rebecca's perfectly made-up face contorted with rage. 3 years, Robert. 3 years I've devoted to you and that broken child, and this is how you repay me. Don't you dare call her broken. Robert's voice was deadly calm. We both know Olivia's condition was your creation. Rebecca laughed, a cold, brittle sound. What are you talking about? The doctors all confirmed her psychosomatic paralysis. It's hardly my fault your daughter couldn't handle her mother's death. Stop lying, Rebecca. I've seen the security footage. I know exactly what you've been telling Olivia for 3 years. Rebecca's expression flickered, calculation replacing outrage. Darling, you're not well. The stress of Olivia's condition has clearly affected your judgment. She stepped closer, reaching for his hand. Let me call Dr. Mercer. He can help us both. Robert stepped back. Harold Winters has already filed for emergency custody protection and a restraining order against you. The police will be here within the hour. For a moment, Rebecca's mask slipped completely, revealing such venom that Emma instinctively pulled Olivia away from the screen. But the child had already seen. She looks like she did when I tried to walk after Mommy died, Olivia whispered. That's her scary face. Emma's heart broke at the matter-of-fact way Olivia described her abuser's rage. You've been very brave, Olivia. Your dad is being brave too. 2 weeks after Rebecca's dramatic departure, the Harrison household had settled into a new rhythm. Emma had converted the sunroom into a therapy space for Olivia, complete with parallel bars, balance equipment, and colorful mats that made each session feel like playtime rather than work. Watch me, Daddy, Olivia called out, taking 6 careful steps between the parallel bars without Emma's assistance. Robert, who had rearranged his entire schedule to be present for Olivia's daily therapy, applauded enthusiastically. That's at least 2 steps more than yesterday. 3 steps more, Emma corrected with a smile. Emma, she's making remarkable progress, especially considering the muscle atrophy from 3 years without walking. Indeed, Olivia's recovery had astonished everyone, including Dr. Sanderson, who visited weekly to document her improvements for the ongoing legal case against Rebecca. The psychological barriers that had prevented Olivia from walking were crumbling rapidly now that the source of manipulation was gone. My muscles remember, Olivia often said during therapy, repeating Emma's words from their first session. On this bright June morning, as sunlight streamed through the windows, Emma had a surprise planned. Today we're going to try something new, she announced, bringing out a small tricycle she'd ordered specially. This will help strengthen your legs in a fun way. Olivia's eyes widened. A bike, like the kids have at the park. Exactly, Emma confirmed. Your dad tells me you used to love riding one before. She didn't need to finish the sentence. Before Rebecca had come into their lives. Before a healthy, active 3-year-old had been convinced her legs wouldn't work. Robert helped position Olivia on the tricycle, his hands steady as she found her balance. The pedals might be tricky at first, Emma explained. But they work the same muscles we've been exercising. With determination etched on her small face, Olivia pushed against the pedals. They moved slightly, then more confidently as she found her rhythm. "I'm doing it!" she exclaimed, pedaling a few feet across the sunroom floor. Emma caught Robert wiping away tears as he recorded the moment on his phone, another piece of evidence for the case, but more importantly, a milestone reclaimed from the years stolen by Rebecca's manipulation. Later that afternoon, as Olivia napped, exhausted but happy from her morning achievements, Robert invited Emma to join him for coffee on the terrace. "The prosecutor called this morning," he said, once they were seated overlooking the gardens. "They're charging Rebecca with child abuse, fraud, and attempted extortion." Emma nodded, relieved but not surprised. The evidence was overwhelming. "They found more," Robert continued grimly. "Apparently, Rebecca has a history of similar relationships, wealthy men with vulnerable children. She never stayed long enough to be caught before. Until now," Emma said softly, "until you noticed what everyone else missed." Robert's eyes held hers with an intensity that made her look away, mindful of maintaining appropriate professional boundaries. "Seeing Olivia thrive is reward enough," she replied. "That's why I became a therapist in the first place." A comfortable silence fell between them as they sipped their coffee. Emma had grown accustomed to these quiet moments with Robert, moments that felt increasingly less professional. She reminded herself that her primary responsibility was to Olivia's recovery. "The board wants me in Tokyo next month," Robert said suddenly. 5 days of meetings I can't postpone again." "Oh." Emma understood his concern immediately. "That's the first time you'll be away from Olivia since Rebecca left." Robert nodded, running a hand through his hair, a gesture Emma now recognized as signaling his anxiety. "I've cancelled 3 international trips already, but this one's unavoidable. Critical investor negotiations that could secure Olivia's future." "Olivia will be fine," Emma assured him. "We've established a strong routine, and her confidence grows daily." "It's not just Olivia I'm worried about," Robert admitted. "The investigation is ongoing. Rebecca's still fighting the charges, making threats through her lawyers." He hesitated. "I'd feel better if you both came with me to Tokyo." The suggestion caught Emma off guard. To Japan, but Olivia's therapy routine can continue there. The hotel has rehabilitation facilities, and our security team can ensure your safety. His expression turned earnest. "Please consider it, Emma. I trust you with Olivia's safety more than anyone." Emma weighed the request carefully. From a therapeutic perspective, the change of environment might actually benefit Olivia, challenging her to adapt her new skills to different settings. From a security standpoint, staying together while Rebecca's case proceeded made sense. "I'll need to adjust her therapy plan for travel," Emma said finally. "And we should prepare her for the idea of flying." Relief washed over Robert's face. "Thank you. I'll have my assistant arrange everything. First-class accommodations, therapy space in the suite, whatever you need." Emma nodded, conscious of maintaining clear professional boundaries, even as their lives became more intertwined. "This is for Olivia's continued recovery and security," she reminded herself. The child needed consistency in her rehabilitation, and with Rebecca still posing a potential threat, separation wasn't ideal. That evening, as she helped Olivia with her bedtime routine, Emma found herself reflecting on the unexpected journey they'd begun 3 weeks ago. What had started as professional concern had developed into something deeper, a commitment not just to Olivia's physical recovery, but to helping this wounded family heal completely. "Will you tell me a story, Miss Emma?" Olivia asked as she snuggled under her covers. "Of course, sweetheart. What kind of story would you like?" Olivia thought for a moment. "A story about a little girl who learns to be brave again." Emma smiled softly. "I know just the one. Once upon a time, there was a very special little girl who had forgotten how strong she really was. The private jet descended through clouds toward Tokyo's skyline, a glittering maze of skyscrapers and ancient temples. Emma gazed out the window, still adjusting to the luxury that surrounded Robert Harrison's world. Beside her, Olivia pressed her face against the glass, eyes wide with wonder. "Look, Miss Emma, the buildings touch the sky." "They sure do, sweetheart." Emma smiled, sharing the child's excitement while keeping a professional demeanor. Across the aisle, Robert closed his laptop, watching his daughter with unmistakable joy. In the 3 weeks since Rebecca's departure, Olivia had transformed, not just physically as she relearned to use her legs, but emotionally. The solemn, fearful child was blossoming into a curious, enthusiastic 6-year-old. "Are you ready for your first international adventure, Livy Bear?" Robert asked. Olivia nodded eagerly. "Emma says we can try to walk in the garden with the pink trees." "Cherry blossoms," Emma clarified, "though I'm not sure they're still blooming this time of year." "My assistant found a garden where late-blooming varieties are still active," Robert said. "It's arranged for tomorrow morning, before my first investor meeting." After landing, a sleek limousine whisked them to the Imperial Hotel, where the staff greeted them with deep bows. Olivia, using her walker with growing confidence, bowed back solemnly, making the concierge smile. Their suite occupied the entire top floor, a stunning expanse of traditional Japanese aesthetics blended with modern luxury. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the city, while tatami rooms and paper screens created intimate spaces within the vast apartment. "This is excessive," Emma murmured as a butler showed them around. "It's secure," Robert replied quietly. "Limited access, private elevator, dedicated security team. After everything with Rebecca, I'm not taking chances." The mention of Rebecca sobered Emma's mood. Though thousands of miles away and legally restrained from contact, Rebecca Sinclair remained a shadow over their lives. The criminal case was proceeding, but Rebecca's wealth and connections had already delayed proceedings twice. After the butler departed, Robert's phone rang, the first of many business calls that would dominate his visit. Emma took the opportunity to help Olivia explore their temporary home. "Look, Emma, a bathtub big enough for swimming," Olivia called from the master bathroom. Emma laughed, joining her. "Almost. That's a traditional Japanese bath. They do things differently here." For the next hour, they discovered hidden delights throughout the suite. Automated toilets that made Olivia giggle, a garden terrace with a miniature koi pond, and a fully equipped therapy room Robert had arranged for Olivia's daily exercises. By the time Robert finished his call, jet lag was catching up with Olivia. Emma supervised her bedtime routine in the smaller of the suite's 3 bedrooms, which had been furnished with child-size futon and soft lanterns shaped like animals. "Will you tell me a Tokyo story?" Olivia asked sleepily as Emma tucked her in. "I don't know any Tokyo stories yet," Emma admitted, "but how about we make one up together?" They were still weaving tales of magical koi fish when Robert appeared in the doorway, his expression soft as he watched them. "Room for one more storyteller?" he asked. "Daddy, we're making up fish stories." Robert joined them, sitting on the edge of the futon. Together, the 3 of them crafted an adventure about a golden koi who helped a little girl find her courage, a thinly veiled parallel to Olivia's own journey that wasn't lost on Emma. After Olivia finally drifted off, Robert gestured for Emma to join him on the terrace. The Tokyo skyline sparkled below them, a galaxy of lights against the night sky. "Thank you for coming," Robert said, offering her a glass of plum wine. "This trip would have been impossible without you." "Olivia's doing amazingly well," Emma replied, accepting the drink. "The change of scenery seems to be boosting her confidence. Her leg muscles are responding better each day, though we still need to be mindful of fatigue." "I meant for me too." Robert's voice quieted. "Having you here makes everything easier." The moment stretched between them, filled with unspoken possibilities. Emma took a careful sip of her wine, using the moment to gather her thoughts. "Robert, I know," he interrupted gently. "Professional boundaries. Olivia's well-being comes first. I understand and respect that completely." Emma nodded, grateful for his perception. "It's not that I don't. It's just that the timing is complicated. My primary responsibility is to Olivia's recovery." "Life is complicated," Robert agreed with a rueful smile. "But sometimes, if we're lucky, the complications lead us exactly where we need to be." Before Emma could respond, Robert's phone chimed with another business alert. "I should prepare for tomorrow's meetings," he said apologetically. "Breakfast at 7. The cherry blossom viewing is scheduled for 8. "We'll be ready," Emma assured him, both relieved and disappointed by the conversation's end. That night, as Emma lay awake in her luxurious bedroom, Tokyo's lights painting patterns across her ceiling, she contemplated the unexpected path her life had taken. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a nanny starting a temporary assignment. Now she was in Japan, helping a remarkable child heal while fighting feelings for the child's father that grew stronger each day. "Focus on Olivia," she whispered to herself. "Everything else can wait." Cherry blossoms drifted on the morning breeze, pale pink petals swirling against the blue sky. Emma adjusted Olivia's sun hat as they waited by a stone bridge in Shinjuku-gyoen, one of Tokyo's most beautiful gardens. Robert stood nearby, speaking rapid-fire Japanese with the garden's director, who had opened the private section early for their visit. "Are you ready to try walking here?" Emma asked, gesturing to the smooth path that wound beneath the flowering trees. Olivia nodded, determination shining in her eyes. In the week since they'd arrived in Tokyo, she'd progressed from using the walker to walking with just Emma's hand for support. Today, they hoped she might take her first completely independent steps outdoors. "Remember, no rushing," Emma cautioned. "Your muscles are still rebuilding after 3 years. Slow and steady wins the race." Robert rejoined them, camera ready. "The director says this path is the flattest in the garden, perfect for practice." Olivia beamed up at her father. "I'm going to walk under the pink trees all by myself." "I believe you will," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. Emma positioned herself slightly ahead of Olivia, while Robert stood a few feet behind, ready to catch her if needed. With ceremonial solemnity, Olivia released Emma's hand and stood alone on the path, cherry blossoms dancing around her golden curls. "Whenever you're ready, sweetheart," Emma encouraged. Olivia took one careful step forward, then another. Her legs trembled slightly, but her balance held. A third step, then a fourth. By the 6th step, she was moving with growing confidence, her face illuminated with joy. "Daddy, Miss Emma, I'm doing it! I'm really walking!" Robert captured the moment on video, tears streaming unashamedly down his face. Emma felt her own eyes welling up as Olivia covered the distance between them, walking independently for the first time in over 3 years. When Olivia reached her, Emma knelt to embrace the triumphant child. "You did it. I'm so proud of you." Robert joined their hug, enveloping both of them in his arms. For a perfect moment, they remained together beneath the cherry trees, a tableau of healing and hope. Later that morning, after Robert had reluctantly departed for his business meetings, Emma and Olivia continued exploring the garden with their guide, Yumi. Olivia alternated between walking short distances and riding in a wheelchair when fatigue set in. "You American girl very strong," Yumi commented, watching Olivia practice her steps along a pond's edge. "Like bamboo, bend but never break." "She is strong," Emma agreed, snapping photos to send to Robert. "Stronger than anyone knows." After lunch, at a child-friendly restaurant where Olivia delightedly tried eating with chopsticks, they returned to the hotel for her afternoon therapy session and rest. Emma was helping Olivia practice step-ups in their suite's therapy room when the house phone rang. "Harrison's suite," Emma answered, expecting Robert's daily check-in. Silence greeted her, then a click as the call disconnected. Emma frowned, but returned to Olivia's exercises. 10 minutes later, the phone rang again. "Hello?" Emma said more cautiously. "Is this Emma Walker?" A woman's voice, unfamiliar but somehow threatening. "Who's calling, please?" "A friend of Rebecca's." The voice hardened. "You should leave Japan immediately, before something unfortunate happens to you or the child." Ice flooded Emma's veins. "I'm calling security. They can't protect you everywhere." The line went dead. With shaking hands, Emma immediately called Robert, who answered on the first ring. "What's wrong?" he asked, instantly alert to the tension in her voice. "Someone just called with a threat," Emma explained in a low voice, moving away from where Olivia was still practicing. "A woman claiming to be Rebecca's friend." Robert's voice turned steely. "I'm sending security up immediately. Don't open the door for anyone except my personal team. I'll be back within 30 minutes. True to his word, Robert arrived 28 minutes later, accompanied by 2 security specialists who began sweeping the suite for surveillance devices. "How did they find us?" Emma asked, keeping her voice steady for Olivia's sake. The little girl was napping, exhausted from her morning triumph and unaware of the threat. "Rebecca maintained relationships with fashion contacts worldwide," Robert said grimly, "including Tokyo. Her reach is more extensive than we realized." "What do we do?" Robert ran a hand through his hair. "We have options. Return to Connecticut early. Move to a different hotel under different names. Bring in additional security." "Running feels like letting her win," Emma observed, "after all Olivia's progress." "My thoughts exactly." Robert nodded to the security team as they completed their sweep. "Nothing found, sir," the lead guard reported. "But we recommend changing rooms as a precaution." Within hours, they had relocated to a different suite, this one on a secure floor used by visiting diplomats. Robert rearranged his meetings to conduct as many as possible from the hotel, and security personnel were posted around the clock. That evening, as Olivia showed her father the step-ups she'd mastered during therapy, Emma received a text message from an unknown number. "You can't hide the broken child forever." She showed it to Robert after Olivia was asleep. His face darkened with fury. "The police are tracing these communications. Rebecca's violating her restraining order, even if she's using proxies." "I'm worried about Olivia," Emma admitted. "She's finally feeling safe again." "We're not letting Rebecca steal that from her," Robert said firmly. "Not again." He hesitated, then added more softly, "I've been thinking about what happens after Tokyo. After Olivia's recovery is more complete." Emma felt her pulse quicken. "Oh? I want to offer you a permanent position, not as Olivia's nanny or therapist, but as our family's director of charitable programs." He smiled at her surprised expression. "The Harrison Foundation funds rehabilitation programs for children. Who better to lead them than the woman who gave my daughter back her legs and her smile?" Rain lashed against the windows of the Harrison suite, turning Tokyo's skyline into a blurred watercolor of lights and shadows. Emma sat with Olivia in the tatami room, teaching the child origami as thunder rumbled in the distance. 3 days had passed since the threatening phone call, days filled with increased security, hushed conversations, and the growing weight of Robert's revelation about his late wife's accident. "Look, Miss Emma, I made a crane." Olivia held up her somewhat lopsided paper bird with pride. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Emma praised, pushing aside her worries to focus on the moment. "In Japan, they say folding 1,000 paper cranes brings good luck and healing." Olivia considered this with solemn eyes. "Could we make 1,000 before we go home, for Daddy? He seems sad lately." The child's perception never ceased to amaze Emma. Despite Robert's efforts to shield Olivia from the tension, she sensed the change in her father's demeanor. "That's a lot of cranes," Emma replied gently, "but we could start and see how many we manage." As they folded colored paper into delicate shapes, Emma's mind returned to the devastating possibility that Claire Harrison's fatal car accident might not have been an accident at all. Robert had shared little beyond the initial revelation, disappearing into lengthy calls with investigators and lawyers when not attending his business meetings. The strain showed in the shadows beneath his eyes and the tightness around his mouth. A knock at the door made Emma tense, but it was only Takashi, the security chief, delivering their lunch. Since the threats began, all meals were prepared under supervision and delivered by trusted staff. "Sandwiches again?" Olivia sighed, examining the elegant bento boxes containing Western-style food adapted to her preferences. "I can ask for something different tomorrow," Emma offered. Olivia shook her head. "No, it's okay. I just miss going to restaurants like we did on the first days." Emma shared the sentiment. Their Tokyo adventure had transformed from exploration to confinement, the hotel suite becoming a gilded cage. Olivia's therapy continued, but without the stimulation of new environments, her enthusiasm was waning. "How about we create our own restaurant?" Emma suggested suddenly. "We could decorate the dining area like a Tokyo cafe, make menus, and pretend we're out on the town." Olivia's face brightened. "Could we dress up too?" "Absolutely. I think there's some beautiful fabric in the closet we could use as kimonos." They spent the afternoon transforming the suite's formal dining room into Olivia's Tokyo cafe, complete with hand-drawn menus and origami decorations. Emma helped Olivia practice walking while carrying a tray, therapeutic exercise disguised as play, strategically designed to improve her balance and muscle coordination. When Robert returned from his meetings that evening, his weary expression lifted at the sight of their creation. "Welcome to our restaurant, sir," Olivia greeted him formally, wearing a makeshift kimono, fashioned from silk scarves. "Do you have a reservation?" Robert played along beautifully, allowing his daughter to lead him to a special table and present him with the menu she'd illustrated. For the first time in days, the tension eased from his shoulders as he ordered imaginary sushi and praised the chef's talents. After Olivia had gone to bed, exhausted from her role-playing and walking practice, Robert joined Emma on the terrace. Despite the earlier rain, the night had cleared, revealing a canopy of stars above the city lights. "Thank you for today," he said, handing her a glass of sake. Seeing her smile like that, I needed that reminder of what matters most. Emma accepted the drink, maintaining a respectful distance. "She misses the outside world. We both do." "I know. This isn't the Tokyo experience I wanted for either of you." Robert sighed, leaning against the railing. "The investigators have confirmed what we suspected. Rebecca had connections to Claire's death." Emma felt her breath catch. "How?" "She knew the mechanic who worked on Claire's car the week before the crash. Phone records show multiple calls between them." Robert's voice was controlled, but Emma could sense the rage beneath his calm exterior. "They're still gathering evidence, but it appears the brake lines were deliberately compromised." "That's monstrous," Emma whispered. "Even knowing what Rebecca did to Olivia, I can't imagine." The perfect plan, Robert said bitterly. Eliminate Claire, comfort the grieving widower, gradually isolate Olivia through psychological manipulation, and eventually control both the child and my fortune. He drained his sake cup in one swallow. I invited that woman into our lives. I nearly married her. Emma placed a compassionate hand on his arm. You couldn't have known. Should have. His fingers briefly touched hers before withdrawing. A father's job is to protect his child. I failed. You're protecting her now, Emma reminded him, and Olivia is walking again, smiling again. You haven't failed. Before Emma could say more, Robert's secure phone buzzed with an incoming message. He checked it, his expression changing from tenderness to alarm. Security breach at the hotel, he said tersely. Someone's attempting to access this floor using staff credentials. Emma's mind raced to Olivia, sleeping peacefully in her room. Rebecca's friend? Possibly. Security is handling it, but we should prepare to move. Robert was already texting instructions to his team. Pack only essentials for you and Olivia. We'll leave through the service elevator in 20 minutes. The private jet hummed steadily as it carried them across the Pacific. Homebound after their abbreviated Tokyo trip, Olivia was curled up asleep on one of the cabin's plush sofas, Mr. Whiskers clutched to her chest, while Emma organized the therapy notes she'd kept throughout their journey, documenting Olivia's continued progress and the setbacks caused by their hasty relocations. Robert sat across from Emma, reviewing security reports on his tablet. The circles under his eyes had deepened over the past 72 hours as events had accelerated with dizzying speed. How's the investigation progressing? Emma asked quietly, mindful of Olivia's proximity. Robert set down his tablet, rubbing his temples. The Tokyo police are still holding Rebecca's associate for questioning. Meanwhile, Connecticut authorities have uncovered offshore accounts linking Rebecca directly to payments made to Claire's mechanic 4 years ago. Emma shook her head, still struggling to comprehend the depth of Rebecca's calculated malice. It's hard to believe one person could orchestrate so much destruction. Rebecca's not just anyone, Robert said wearily. Her psychological evaluation after the initial arrest showed high-functioning sociopathic tendencies. She's intelligent, patient, and completely lacking in empathy. The perfect storm for this kind of long-term manipulation. What does that mean for Olivia? Emma asked, her concern always returning to the child whose welfare had become the center of her world. It means a trial, eventually. Testimony. Robert glanced at his sleeping daughter. She'll need to speak about what Rebecca did to her psychologically, but with proper support, the prosecutor believes her testimony can be handled sensitively. She's stronger than she looks, Emma said, remembering how Olivia had maintained her composure during their hasty departure from Tokyo, treating the security crisis as an adventure rather than a threat. Like her mother, Robert agreed, a familiar sadness crossing his features whenever he mentioned Claire. Claire always faced challenges head-on, no matter how intimidating. Emma hesitated, then asked the question that had been bothering her. Robert, if the investigation proves Rebecca was responsible for Claire's death, how will you tell Olivia? He sighed heavily. I've been consulting with child psychologists about that very question. The current advice is to wait until the legal proceedings are further along, then explain in age-appropriate terms. His eyes met Emma's. I was hoping you might help with that conversation when the time comes. The request touched Emma deeply. Of course, whatever Olivia needs. Whatever we need, Robert corrected gently. You've become essential to this family, Emma, if you want to be. Before she could respond, the pilot announced they were beginning their descent toward Connecticut. Emma busied herself with waking Olivia and preparing for landing, using the activity to mask her conflicted emotions. The Harrison estate welcomed them back with enhanced security, new gates, additional guards, and upgraded surveillance systems that had been installed during their absence. As their car approached the mansion, Emma noticed Olivia grow quiet, her earlier excitement fading. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" she asked, catching the child's troubled expression. "Is Rebecca waiting inside?" Olivia whispered, clutching Mr. Whiskers tighter. "No, absolutely not," Robert assured her firmly. "Rebecca will never enter this house again, I promise you that." Relief washed over Olivia's face. "Good, because I want to show you something when we get home." Once inside, after the luggage had been brought in and the security team had completed their checks, Olivia led Robert and Emma to the grand staircase that dominated the mansion's foyer, the staircase she hadn't climbed in over 3 years. "I want to walk upstairs by myself," she announced, her small chin lifted with determination. Emma exchanged glances with Robert. They had practiced stair climbing in therapy, but always with support, never a full flight of stairs independently. "Are you sure you're ready?" Emma asked carefully. "We could start with just a few steps. Your muscles are still rebuilding their strength." Olivia shook her head. "I need to do this. Rebecca said the stairs were too dangerous for me, but she lied about everything." Understanding dawned on Emma. This wasn't just about physical ability, but reclaiming power over spaces that had been forbidden through manipulation and fear. "All right," she agreed, "but your dad and I will be right behind you just in case." Olivia approached the first step, her face set with concentration. One by one she conquered each stair, pausing occasionally to rest but refusing assistance. When she reached the top, her triumphant smile illuminated the entire foyer. "I did it," she called down. "I beat the scary stairs." Robert clapped enthusiastically, tears streaming down his face without shame. "You certainly did, Livy Bear. You're the bravest girl I know." Later that evening, after Olivia had been tucked into her own bed for the first time in weeks, Emma found Robert in the library, staring at a photograph of Claire holding an infant Olivia. "She would be so proud," Emma said softly, joining him by the fireplace. "Of Olivia?" "Of both of you," Emma clarified. "Olivia for her courage, and you for helping her heal." Robert set down the photograph, turning to face Emma fully. "I meant what I said on the plane. You're essential to this family now if you want to be. The Harrison Foundation position is yours, regardless of other considerations." Emma understood the careful phrasing. He was offering her a way to remain in their lives professionally, without pressure for anything more personal. The thoughtfulness of the gesture touched her deeply. Dawn broke over the Harrison estate, pale light filtering through bulletproof windows recently installed throughout the mansion. Emma stirred in the armchair beside Olivia's bed, her back stiff from the night spent watching over the sleeping child. In the doorway, one of Robert's security team nodded respectfully before being relieved by his replacement, the continuous guard that had been maintained since news of Rebecca's escape. 48 hours had passed with no sign of Rebecca, but the tension had only increased. FBI agents came and went, speaking in hushed tones with Robert in his study. The entire property had been transformed into a fortress, with motion sensors, armed guards, and constant surveillance. Emma stretched carefully, not wanting to wake Olivia. Despite the crisis surrounding them, they had maintained the child's therapy routine, finding normalcy in daily exercises and small victories. Yesterday, Olivia had walked the entire length of the garden path unassisted, a milestone that would have been celebrated exuberantly under different circumstances. A soft knock drew Emma's attention. Robert entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Emma before gently smoothing Olivia's curls away from her forehead. "Any updates?" Emma whispered. Robert shook his head. "Nothing concrete. Rebecca's passport was flagged at Toronto International Airport, but security footage revealed it was a decoy, someone using her identification." The FBI believes it was a deliberate misdirection. To make us think she's left the country, Emma concluded. Exactly. Robert sipped his coffee, exhaustion evident in every line of his face. They've expanded the search radius around Connecticut, focusing on properties with connections to Rebecca or her known associates. Emma studied his face with concern. Have you slept at all? An hour or two. He managed a weary smile. I keep thinking about what her psychologist told the investigators, that Rebecca sees herself as the victim in all this, that in her mind, we're the ones who betrayed her by exposing her plans. The level of delusion makes her even more dangerous, Emma observed quietly. Olivia stirred, blinking sleepily up at them. Morning, Daddy. Morning, Miss Emma. Good morning, sunshine, Emma smiled, setting aside the grim conversation. Ready for pancakes? The day proceeded with artificial normality. Emma led Olivia through her therapy exercises in the sunroom, now guarded by an agent, positioned discreetly outside. Robert alternated between work calls and security briefings, appearing periodically to check on his daughter's progress. By afternoon, cabin fever had set in. Olivia stood at the window, watching raindrops trace patterns on the glass. When can we go outside again? She asked plaintively. Emma exchanged glances with Robert, who had joined them for lunch. Soon, sweetheart, she promised, though uncertainty gnawed at her. How long could they maintain this lockdown? Days? Weeks? I have an idea, Robert said suddenly. We can't go out, but what if we brought something special in? 2 hours later, the mansion's ballroom had been transformed. The security team, after thorough background checks, had allowed in a small group of entertainers, a magician, a face painter, and a balloon artist, creating an impromptu carnival for one delighted 6-year-old. It's my very own party, Olivia exclaimed, her face painted like a butterfly as she clutched an elaborate balloon dog. Emma watched from the sidelines as Robert joined his daughter, submitting good-naturedly to having his own face painted as a lion. The joy on Olivia's face was worth every precaution, every moment of anxiety. Harold Winters, Robert's attorney, appeared at Emma's elbow. A word, Miss Walker? They stepped into the hallway, where Harold's expression turned serious. The police have a lead on Rebecca. A vacation home registered to her sister in the Berkshires showed signs of recent occupation. They found notes, concerning notes. What kind of notes? Emma asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Plans for accessing this property. Details about Olivia's routine. Harold hesitated. And your name, Miss Walker, repeatedly, with threats. Emma absorbed this, her professional training kicking in. Rebecca sees me as the catalyst for her downfall, the one who noticed what she was doing to Olivia. That makes you a target, Harold said gravely. Robert needs to know. I'll tell him, Emma assured him. After Olivia's party, let them have this moment. That evening, after Olivia had been put to bed, the security team gathered in Robert's study. Emma joined them, no longer just observing, but actively participating in the protection strategy. Rebecca knows this property, the lead FBI agent explained, indicating blueprints spread across the desk. She lived here for 3 years. Our advantage is that she doesn't know how much we've upgraded security since then. She'll target Olivia, Robert stated flatly. That's always been her focus, controlling my daughter to control me. I agree, the agent nodded. Which is why we're recommending relocation to a safe house until she's apprehended. Robert shook his head firmly. Olivia has just begun to feel secure again in her home. I won't uproot her. Then we use that to our advantage, Emma suggested, an idea forming. If Rebecca is fixated on reaching Olivia, we can prepare specifically for that scenario. The planning continued late into the night, contingencies and countermeasures carefully mapped out. When the others had finally departed, Robert and Emma remained in the study, the weight of the situation settling between them. You should consider the safe house option, Emma said quietly, for Olivia's sake. You don't know my daughter like I do, Robert replied. Another disruption now, after everything she's been through with Rebecca. It could set back her recovery significantly. Emma recognized the truth in his words. Olivia's progress wasn't just physical but psychological, rebuilding trust in her environment, in her own abilities, in the adults around her. Then we face this together, she said simply. The alarm pierced the pre-dawn darkness, its shrill wail echoing through the Harrison mansion. Emma was instantly awake, her body moving on autopilot as she threw on a robe and rushed toward Olivia's room. In the hallway she collided with Robert, his face taut with determination. "Security breach at the east perimeter," he reported tersely as they hurried together. "Teams are responding." They reached Olivia's bedroom door just as the security guard stationed outside moved to intercept them. "Sir, ma'am, protocol is to move to the safe room immediately." "Not without my daughter," Robert insisted. Inside, they found Olivia sitting up in bed, clutching Mr. Whiskers, her eyes wide with fear. "Daddy, what's happening?" "Just a drill, sweetheart," Emma said soothingly, following the plan they'd prepared. "Remember how we practiced? It's like a game of hide and seek." Despite her obvious fear, Olivia nodded bravely. "The special hiding place." "That's right," Robert confirmed, lifting her into his arms. "Let's go, Livy Bear." The trio moved swiftly through the mansion's corridors, flanked by security personnel. Their destination wasn't the main panic room off the master suite, but a secondary safe room they'd prepared specifically for this scenario, one that Rebecca wouldn't know about from her time living in the house. Once inside the reinforced chamber, with its steel door locked securely, Robert activated the monitoring systems. Screens displayed feeds from throughout the property, showing security teams sweeping the grounds methodically. "Where is she?" Emma murmured, scanning the images. "Team 2 reports movement in the conservatory," a voice announced through the communication system. "Proceeding with caution." On one screen, they watched armed guards approaching the glass-walled room where Emma had conducted many of Olivia's therapy sessions. A shadow moved inside, a slender figure in dark clothing. "It's her," Robert whispered, his hand finding Emma's and squeezing tightly. Olivia, settled on a small cot with her stuffed cat, looked up anxiously. "Is Rebecca trying to find me?" Emma sat beside her, maintaining calm for the child's sake. "Yes, sweetheart, but remember what we talked about. You're safe here with us, and the security team is going to help Rebecca leave." The euphemism wasn't lost on Robert, whose eyes remained fixed on the screens as agents surrounded the conservatory. But instead of the swift apprehension they'd expected, chaos erupted. Smoke suddenly filled the glass room, obscuring the camera's view. Alarms blared again, indicating multiple breaches. "She's not alone," Robert realized with horror. "She brought help." The communication system crackled with urgent reports. 3 intruders, professionally equipped, moving through the mansion with tactical precision. This wasn't just Rebecca's desperate attempt to reach Olivia, it was a coordinated operation. "What do they want?" Emma asked, instinctively moving closer to Olivia. "Rebecca has convinced herself that Olivia belongs to her," Robert said grimly. "In her mind, she's Olivia's true mother, and we've stolen her child." Rishidi. The next 30 minutes unfolded with excruciating tension as they watched the security teams engage with the intruders. 2 were apprehended quickly, but Rebecca remained elusive, seeming to know exactly how to navigate the mansion's layout to avoid capture. Then, abruptly, all the monitors went black. "What happened?" Emma gasped. "They've cut the surveillance system," Robert replied grimly, moving to the communication panel. "Base, report status." No response came through the speakers. The safe room had gone silent. "Daddy, I'm scared," Olivia whispered, tears welling in her eyes. Robert knelt beside his daughter, his voice gentle despite the fear Emma could see in his eyes. "I know, Livy Bear, but remember how brave you've been learning to walk again? This is another kind of brave moment. A sudden sound from the ventilation system made them all freeze, a metallic scraping, followed by a light tapping. "The air ducts," Robert muttered, positioning himself protectively in front of Olivia and Emma. "They're too small for anyone to crawl through." "But not too small for this," a familiar voice called from the grate. Rebecca's voice, followed by a small canister dropping into the room, immediately releasing a thin vapor. "Gas!" Robert shouted, lunging for the emergency respirators stored in a wall cabinet. Emma scooped up Olivia, burying the child's face against her shoulder. "Don't breathe, sweetheart. Hold your breath like we practiced in the pool." Robert passed them respirators, but as Emma secured one over Olivia's face, she felt her own vision beginning to blur. The gas worked faster than she'd anticipated. Beside her, Robert was already staggering, fighting to remain conscious as he tried to reach the emergency beacon that would alert outside authorities. Emma awoke to the sound of voices, urgent, professional voices she didn't recognize. Her head pounded as she forced her eyes open, finding herself on the safe room floor. Paramedics moved around her, checking vital signs and administering oxygen. "Olivia!" she gasped, struggling to sit up. "Where's Olivia?" A familiar face swam into view. Harold Winters, Robert's attorney, his expression grave but relieved. "She's safe, Miss Walker, they both are." "Rebecca." "Apprehended," Harold assured her. "When you didn't check in, I alerted the FBI backup team. They arrived just as Rebecca was attempting to remove Olivia from the property." Emma insisted on being taken to them immediately. In the library, she found Robert sitting on a sofa, a bandage on his forehead but otherwise appearing unharmed. Beside him, Olivia was being examined by a pediatrician. "Emma!" Olivia cried, spotting her first. The little girl slid off the sofa and, to everyone's amazement, ran across the room on steady legs to throw herself into Emma's arms. The significance wasn't lost on anyone present. Olivia's first true run since she was 3 years old, instinctively executed in a moment of emotional need. "You're okay," Emma murmured, holding her close. "We're all okay." Later, after Olivia had been settled for a nap under the watchful eye of medical staff, Robert and Emma stood on the terrace, watching FBI agents process the scene below. "Rebecca and her accomplices are in federal custody," Robert informed her, his voice hoarse from the gas. "The evidence is overwhelming, not just for today's attack, but for Claire's murder, Olivia's abuse, everything." "It's really over," Emma said, still processing the magnitude of what they'd survived. "Yes." Robert turned to face her fully. "Which means it's time to talk about beginnings." "Beginnings? You and me. Us. This family we've become." He took her hands in his. "I know the timing is complicated. I know there are professional considerations, but I also know that I love you, Emma Walker." Emma looked into his eyes, seeing not the wealthy tech mogul or the grieving widower, but simply Robert, the man who had fought so hard to protect his daughter. "I do love you," she admitted softly, "but Olivia has to come first. Her recovery, her adjustment." "Did you see her run to you today?" Robert interrupted gently. "That wasn't therapy or practice, that was pure instinct, running to someone she loves and trusts completely." 6 months later, on a perfect autumn day, Olivia Harrison skipped down the aisle of a small chapel, scattering rose petals from a basket. Behind her, Emma walked toward Robert, who waited with undisguised joy as his daughter and the woman who had saved them both came home to his heart at last. The child, who had once been told she would never walk again, danced at her father's wedding, celebrating not just a marriage, but a miracle of healing. The journey of 3 broken souls who had found wholeness together, one step at a time.